Welcome to Savage Rants. I'm Nick Savage. In the wake of last month's election, over 100 MPs lost their seats. But rather than mourn the loss of good parliamentarians, this video will look back at the best of the worst of the election losers. The MPs no one should be sad to miss. Our dishonourable mentions, if you will, of the 41st Canadian Parliament. First on our list of dishonourable mentions is John Williamson, a former Director of Communications for Stephen Harper, who perhaps should have been a little less communicative when it came to his own personal views on the Temporary Foreign Workers Program.
I'm going to put this in terms of colors, but it's not meant to be about race. It makes no sense to pay whiteys stay home or bring in brown people to work in these jobs.
We found out later that Mr. Williamson wanted to be consistent in his racial slurs, but chose to use the term brown people rather than brownie out of respect for the Girl Guides of Canada. So he's not a complete monster. Next on our list is MP Paul Calandra. Calandra had a difficult job as Parliamentary Secretary to Stephen Harper, and that job became particularly hard last year when he decided to be an obfuscating dick to then opposition leader Thomas Mulcair.
Will the Conservative government confirm that the 30-day Canadian commitment in Iraq will indeed end on October 4th?
Mr. Speaker, there's a great deal of confusion with respect to the NDP position on Israel.
Listen, well, I can understand the confusion. We are in the Middle East and we are under the eyes, but we're talking about Iraq.
Mr. Speaker, what does the Leader of the Opposition not understand? That our friends in Israel are on the front lines combating terrorism, Mr. Speaker.
While completely dickish behavior, the heated exchange is not why Calandra's on this list. No, for that, we have to go to a few days later.
I would like to unconditionally, unreservedly apologize to this House for my behavior the other day. I allowed the passion and the anger to get in the way of appropriately answering a question to the Leader of the Opposition. For that, I apologize.
I'm glad he was sorry for his actions. But tears? Look, I'm no macho chauvinist, but there are appropriate times to cry. Funerals, the birth of your kid, the end of the first Pokemon movie where each Pokemon is fighting his clone but can't win because really each one is fighting themselves. I'm sorry that Pikachu just gets me. But look, this is not worth crying over. Just apologize and...
I'm fairly certain that there will be other opportunities in this House where I will be answering questions that you don't appreciate.
Crocodile tears, Calandra. You make me feel all sorry for you, but then not only do you not apologize, but you promise to be an obfuscating dick in the future. Come on! Forget Calandra. Let's get to the big guns we're glad to see fire blanks this election campaign. The ministers who lost their seats, starting with Bernard, I stand for no on Valcourt, who made headlines by making a true ass of himself at the release of the Truth and Reconciliation Report on Canada's residential school program. In case you're wondering, he's the one with the arrow pointing at him.
That not all that needs to be known is known about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in this country. We therefore call for the establishment of a national inquiry to look into that fact.
Now, I'm Nick Savage, as I'm the real Savage, and as an MC, I know I'm pretty average, but would the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs please stand up? Please stand up? Please stand up? On behalf of thousands of murdered and missing Aboriginal women? Moving on. Savage Rants has saved the absolute worst for last, that being former Veterans Affairs Minister and Frankenstein's monster, Julian Fantino. Now last year, when Veterans Affairs Canada announced it would shut down 8 service offices across the country, veterans were understandably upset. As Veterans Affairs Minister, Fantino could have worked with vets to assuage their worries and develop solutions to these lost services. Instead, this happened.
A group of Canadian veterans, some from the Second World War, stood in front of television cameras to tell Canadians how badly they were treated today by the Veterans Affairs Minister.
How badly? Well...
The veterans went to the minister's office and waited and waited.
Fantino kept them waiting 45 minutes before showing up, and when he did, here's how it went.
You guarantee us that there's going to be someone there in every one of those places to look after us?
Well, you know, this finger pointing stuff doesn't really work very well with me.
Which finger would that be? Would that be the one that defended this country? That finger? Now, as to why Julian was late, I'll let him explain.
I was attending meetings to champion some issues on behalf of veterans. I'm not in a position to disclose those right now.
Of course not.
Wait. You were late to meet veterans because you were championing veterans? That sounds like
Hogwash.
Unlike our brave veterans, Fantino ran from his problems.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's...
He also ran from their families.
Mr. Fantino, I'm just a vet spouse. You're forgetting us. Once more. We're nothing to you.
Not surprisingly, this behavior upset veterans.
It's a bunch of bullshit is all we get from this politician, and he should not be in office. If they don't open these offices, don't vote conservative.
I was getting upset, and matter of fact, I was crying in there. Because I kept...
If you're Veterans Affairs Minister and you're making combat-hardened vets cry and they're not watching the end of the first Pokemon movie with you, you are an asshole and deserve to lose your re-election. Which you did. For Savage Rants, I'm Nick Savage. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click like or subscribe to my channel.